Wisconsin Foodie would like to thank the following underwriters for their support: the Wisconsin Milk Marketing Board and the Dairy Farm Families of Wisconsin, Outpost Natural Foods Co-op, and Superior Equipment and Supply.
So this is Fourquarter Restaurant. This is our neighborhood's restaurant on the east side of Madison, 708 and a quarter East Johnson. I think it's one of the cooler addresses we have here in the city. We opened this restaurant in June of 2012, kind of as the next step after we lost Underground Kitchen to a fire. It's been a pretty amazing process for us this year. We've gone through a lot of build up and people were excited about it opening, and you know, it's a small space, and so we don't take reservations, and it just it can get cramped and stuff, but you know, for more and more, like, the community has really embraced it, and we've been super excited about that. Just in case anyone complains about us not having a sign, I like to point out that we do have a sign. We just couldn't afford to put up a big one. We renovated this space completely. It was an audio store before that, but originally it was a grocery store, which I think is kind of cool. We have 14 bar seats, as well as 18 seats here and 7 tables. On any given night, we do anywhere between 75 to 100 covers. We try to make space anywhere we can because it's such a small space, so we decoratively put up our microgreens and have to grab them in between service, but you know, I think with Fourquarter, the menu changes often, but we're not trying to be one of those restaurants where the menu is changing 4 or 5 times a week. You know, we put a lot of effort into the development of dishes and kind of the creation, so we kind of want them to be around. We want them to be something that, you know, people can come back for occasionally. Nothing will last on the menu longer than 3 or 4 months, but it's not like you're never going to be able to see some of these dishes, and I kind of want the restaurant to speak to that. And the mains, you know, right now we're doing quail, pheasant, porterhouse pork chop instead of a beef, and we always have a daily sausage platter that, you know, we get from the butcher shop for the shop. So.
Signorelli. I'm one of the butchers here at Underground Butcher, where we butcher whole animals all week long. I don't know, I just think it's important to value every single one of the cuts off of an animal like equally, like considering the sacrifice that like the farmer, the animal, the arbiter, you know, us, that we're all putting in. I think it's just really important to definitely try and educate people on some cuts that they're not familiar with and be able to sell the whole animal that way, and not always just kind of rely on being able to sell hamburgers.
What do you got going on here?
So we've got a hind quarter of beef that I had just been working on a little bit, breaking it down in the shop. I've taken out the tenderloin already, you guys missed that. I take out the abdomen section, which contains like the bavette and some other skirt steak-like cuts that aren't necessarily skirt steak. I've also taken out the tri-tip roast or steak, depending on how you cut it, and I'm just going from there.
Kind of normally when you go into a butcher shop, you're gonna see your steaks. You're gonna see a lot of ribeye. You're gonna see a lot of New York strip. You might see tenderloin and stuff like that, but you know, a hanging weight beef comes into us at 700 pounds, and this is what the tenderloin looks like. There's 2 of these per animal. Once you trim it down to where you want to be, you're gonna have around like 5 pounds, 4
like
pounds
kind
total
of at best, yeah.
Tenderloin. So, you know, if you're just eating tenderloin off of a beef, you know, you have 700 more pounds of it that needs to find a home. We have a bunch of different businesses here in town, but this is our retail shop called Underground Butcher. The whole idea has always been to, you know, be part of the local food economy in a way that is both an expression of what we care about and also kind of highlighting things that are like delicious and exciting for us. First and foremost, we are a small butcher shop. We're a neighborhood butcher shop in the Williamson Street neighborhood, just off of the Capitol here on the Near East side of Madison. we were just really excited to be part of this because we live in the neighborhood and we wanted somewhere where people could walk to and talk to their butcher and talk to their cheesemonger and be able to discuss kind of the salamis and the other cured products that we've been making for a long time. So this has really given us an avenue to do that. The first idea that we had was like just this case right here, which is kind of a selection of the meats that we make all in-house. So, you know, everything from a lamb mortadella to spruce goat. We have our andouille and Tuscan and our summer sausage. And then some of our large format stuff, the lomo and the sopressata, which is pretty fun. So these are kind of the exciting, fun stuff that we get to do and make these products. And, you know, then we also, it's Wisconsin, so we gotta have a cheese case. You know, we actually carry a lot of cheeses from Wisconsin, but we have a couple European cheeses too, and it's been fun to kind of compare those and see those out there. But one of the staples here at the shop has always been the Uplands Pleasant Ridge Reserve, and it's cool because he raises a few pigs every year, and we get a large amount of those. And so we serve the cheese and also have the hogs here from that farm. So. I think on poultry, we have 2 awesome farms. I wish more people would come in here for poultry. I think the only place I know that gets small farm fresh chickens. Like, you can't find a fresh chicken from a small farm anywhere in Wisconsin.
You won't find them fresh. You'll find them
yeah,
frozen.
Everything's frozen.
Yeah.
And so like we worked with this farm, 9-Patch Farm, and they drive down here. They drive from the plant every other week and bring chickens down to us. And it's amazing because like just that opportunity to sell fresh chicken, like I don't think you've seen a small farm be able to do that in, you know, 20 years in Wisconsin. So we're excited about that. We also work with another poultry farmer, Nami Moon, who raises just like the coolest birds. Like when we opened up, like we had all these awesome like black silkies and Poussin. Let me,
we have some.
Yeah, let me show you. They raise these birds specifically for us, and like you can tell that it's a much smaller chicken, but like they still take like about 6 weeks to raise, whereas like a commercial bird takes 6 weeks to raise and it's 10 times the size. But this is like the most awesome flavor in a bird, as well as like much easier to cook because it's not as big, there's less bone, and it's super tender. And then we have our fresh sausages here. Fresh sausage, I think, is an art that has been lost as well. We make anywhere between 5 and 8 sausages in this case at all times. Currently we have a maple breakfast sausage, a lamb merguez, which is this one. A lot of times we really like beer and beef together, so we take a Saison beer here and mix it with some other fresh herbs, black pepper, and make a beef sausage that we like to sell. So every week we're doing like one different beer sausage because it's Wisconsin, right? Like, yeah. And then we have our traditional Wisconsin bratwurst, which we make by hand and isn't made in a huge factory like most of the brats you see at shops. Little known fact, I'm from Texas, so we do Texas-style brisket. Even though I didn't grow up on very good Texas brisket, most of it was pretty garbage. But so this is a smoked brisket. We smoke it for around 18 hours using hickory and cherry wood, and then we sell it. We serve it sliced to go. We just started doing this, but it's a process that we're really excited about. So we're gonna cut into this one. So we're just gonna look here and see, you kind of see the meat's able to pull off with the knife there. So we're really happy with that. I think we cook it at a really low temperature so that it keeps the moisture in there, and we're really happy with kind of how that product has been coming out. It took us only about 4 years to develop this recipe.
Ooh, wow. That's really tender.
There's still a lot of work to be done, I guess, in terms of what's on the table right now. So yeah, I'm proud of the progress that I've made, but like I've got a long way to go. I didn't eat meat for 11 years. I think like a lot of people, I feel like I've heard so many interviews with other butchers in like newer shops, and so many people have that same kind of story. I didn't eat meat for a really long time, and then when I did start eating meat, I ate really bad meat for about a half of a year before I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is insane. You know, what was 11 years of that for? So I kind of considered not eating, you know, meat again, and then I realized, you know, that like while I was going to the farmer's market, that I had been avoiding like all the farms that had like naturally raised, near organic, if not like organic meats, and so I started buying things like that, and you know, up until that point, I had no experience cooking with it, so then it like opened this new door of like cooking meats and proteins that I had no idea what I was doing, and I ruined a lot of great meat, but.
You know, when we opened this shop, the idea was to kind of work with small farms here in South Central Wisconsin. That's it. That's what we do. You know, this area of Wisconsin is just a bounty of amazing producers, and it took us a little while to be able to fill out our sourcing. Kind of, I'm just going to stop and like look at the kind of how perfect that comes out of there, seamed out like that versus, you know, could be cut on a bandsaw or something like that. You know, we're getting full muscle definition there. Really nice. You know, we don't have a big bandsaw. We're not bringing stuff in here in boxes and then cutting it out. We're doing muscle extraction and you know, looking at the animal and like how seam cutting goes and stuff like that. And that's almost out of necessity.
Yeah.
And also kind of our preference too.
Funny because I came up like wanting to be a butcher, right? Like having this ideal that I was going to do that, and then it took like so many years of just cutting meat first before I could even see like this part of the animal, you know. Top sirloin, the way you buy it in the grocery store, is 3 different muscles, and like now I'm going to steam it out for you, and you're going to enjoy it so much more, you know. My most heated or whatever, like the question that I get just kind of like riled up about, like not with the customer, but that I want to explain as much as I can, is the organics question versus organic standards. Like if a farm is raising animals up to organic standard but they're not certified, you can't market it that way, right? Like you can't say like this is organic, like it's illegal. There's laws in place. So when people come in and just point blank fire away like, is all your meat all your meat is organic, right? And you're like, no, and then they like start to turn and you're like, but wait, like I just want to tell you why, like, you know, so much of it is going to be up to standard. It's a really expensive process for farms to go through, right? People know that, right? So in some instances it doesn't make sense because this might be only the second go a farm has had on raising cattle, you know? And the finances just might not make sense for them. But beyond that, like, there's all sorts of things to deal with, like organic integrity, like things can't touch things. Organic things are usually sold in bags because there's less of a chance that you're gonna ruin their integrity of being organic. And so less people are touching it, or one person's touching it once, it's going in a bag, and then it's still organic until you get it home, and then it hits your countertop, and then like, you know what I mean? Is it still organic? I don't know, you know? But there are all these weird rules and things that kind of make it really difficult, I think. We'd either have to go 100% ourselves or not, because they're in open air in a case, and it would be like the pork isn't organic, but the beef is. Like, how is that possible, you know?
What it is kind of like where we are is like we kind of just leave it up to the farmers to like do what they want to do. So, you know, we're not gonna bring in beef that's, you know, raised in confinement. We're not gonna bring in beef that is only fed corn. But if a farmer wants to vary the diet up through its life, like that's fine by us. What we're interested in is making sure that it's sustainably raised, that it's ethically raised, and that in the end that it's a good product. I think the thing for us is, what I really look at is just the access to pasture and making sure that there's rotational grazing, making sure that the animals are treated really well and that the genetics that they care about is really important. And I know that like the word genetics can be a bad word in this industry, but we love like Scottish Highland beef, or like some of the Black Angus that we see is really awesome. You know, we're not as excited about, you know, serving, you know, dairy cow in here, because at the end of the day, you know, people are eating it too. So
So we cut this whole animal apart. Can you point out all the different cuts here? Or?
Yeah, definitely. We've got the heel, which comes off of the hind leg, the top sirloin, we've got the hip bone, and then we've got the eye of round. We've got some bone situation, and then we've got the tri-tip, a little kidney. This is the rest of the bottom round. And then you've got your, your tenderloin with all the fat that nobody wants on it. And we've got the whole hind shank with the I guess I didn't do a great job, but most of the heel removed. Split the bone in half, scrape the marrow out, mix it with olive oil, salt, and pepper, and stuff it back in and tie it. That's a pretty great roast that I've been trying to push, so I'm gonna do a shameless plug on it. And then we've got the top round. It's a large muscle. It's usually cheap. Roast beef, right? But if you want to know how good an animal as a whole tastes, this is the cut that you go for. If you've got a farm that you're looking to get beef from, you ask them to send you this cut, and then you roast it and you taste it, because it has the most balanced flavor. You're not going to get too much fat. You're not going to get too much lean. The texture isn't really necessarily what you're tasting for, but the taste itself is captured in here really well. And I think roast beef is just the way to go to taste how a whole animal is going to taste. So if you know you've got good beef coming out of here, then the whole animal should be delicious as well. So that's the hind quarter, from the last rib of the animal to the rear leg. All this stuff has 100 different names, so I don't want anyone calling me out on what name I used.
I think we want to be a vegetable-forward restaurant that focuses on kind of serving really kind of fresh, bright flavors mixed with really rich and kind of over-the-top, just deliciousness. I think on all of our dishes you're seeing kind of a development and a balance between kind of fresh and richness. And I think that's kind of being in the upper Midwest is kind of a good way to balance it, because you have this intense seasons of a bounty of vegetables and you want to highlight those, and then you got to figure out a way to kind of make it through long periods of the year without really anything. We're kind of getting close to service right now, so everyone's kind of in a rush. What you see here is what you get. So 3 induction burners, 2 baby fryers, and a single oven. I don't know many kitchens that can pull that off with the numbers we do, but we just kind of said, okay, this is what we got, we're gonna do it.
Sometimes I just kind of do stuff that I want, and then a lot of the times it's based on what we have at the moment, what's in season, what the butcher shop is working with. We're gonna make a trout dish. It's one of our more popular things on the menu right now. It's pretty simple. It's trout with radishes and lentils, some smoked roe. We do pickled radishes and sauteed, some brown butter, lots of herbs. It's pretty nice. Working in this amount of space, everybody kind of figures out the little zones that they can move in. And once you've done it with the same guys a few times, it gets a lot easier. It's like we're dance partners after a while. It's not too bad. You get the hang of it. Drain a bit of that off. Some really nice radish pickles that we've been doing. Got a bit of ginger, garlic, a little bit spicy. Stuff like a fiend herb vinaigrette, some grapefruit for acidity. Kenny, you got any scallions? I like that it's really simple. I mean, it may not seem simple to the people that are eating it, but as a cook, I mean, you're really just making some lentils and a piece of trout and just really focusing on cooking the trout well and not overcooking it.
There's kind of this fried shiitake mushroom dish that we do. That might never leave the menu, just because we can get mushrooms all year round, and it's by far one of the most popular things here. So it's basically deep fried mushrooms with a lime curd and pickled serranos. We probably sell 40, 50 of those a night. We built this bar from reclaimed lumber. We have 3 cocktails that we run on tap here. They just come straight off. We run a ginger beer that's almost always available, as well as beet tonic and then an apple cider. We have 5 beers on tap. Normally, we're looking to have some of the more interesting stuff that's not widely available and complex to get kind of the beer nerds in here. On top of that, we have been really exploring this process of doing bottled cocktails. We're making these ahead of time, getting everything in there, carbonating it ourselves, and then bottling it, and then the customer we just put this on the table, open it up for them, and serve it in a glass.
My name is David. I'm a bartender at Fourquarter. Tonight we're going to be making the Melatonin. First step is to add a little lemon juice. Next we add a melon and lavender syrup, followed by a little Lustau Fino Sherry. And finally, Eldorado 8-year rum. And that'll be shaken and double strained into a glass with a large hand-carved ice cube. A little spritz of Port Charlotte Scotch from Brew Classic. The Melatonin. It's called the Melatonin because it's made with a melon and lavender syrup. Lavender has a relaxing effect, and melon sounds like melatonin.
We're going to try to keep it classic, but all at the same time kind of stretch where those flavors are coming from, trying to maybe do something that's a little bit more creative.
Wisconsin Foodie would like to thank the following underwriters for their support: the Wisconsin Milk Marketing Board and the Dairy Farm Families of Wisconsin, Outpost Natural Foods Co-op, Superior Equipment and Supply, the restaurants of Potawatomi Bingo Casino, Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, Something Special from Wisconsin, and Collectivo Coffee Roasters.